Start this up by doing this. Welcome to the Here to There show. I'm Luc Bouchard, your host for the Here to There show. I'm so happy that you could be with me here today. And this is being live streamed to YouTube, of course, and also it's being recorded. And I just wanted to make that official on the actual recording. And we have John with us here today. So let me stop sharing. And John is coming in from Spain. And what time is it there right now in Spain, John?
It's 6 minutes past 9 p.m.
6 minutes past 9. So yeah, you're 8 hours ahead of me, depending on when the time change is,
Yep.
right? Yeah, on that. So as a lot of you know, the format of the show is the first hour is me interviewing John, and then we're going to cut to a video, and then we're going to continue the questions where you guys get to ask. And but also, if you have a question you want to ask John, in this next hour, it's absolutely open and it's unscripted and it's very fluid, is the way I like to look at it. So I'm just going to put on speaker view and let's get started. So, John, you're originally from Spain?
Originally from Spain, actually from all over Spain.
All over Spain?
All over
And
Spain.
and John and I have we've known each other for 5 years now.
I think it was January, February 2016 that we
2016,
met.
so 4 years.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. And John and I have collaborated on many different things. We basically bring our both skill sets to the table. And you've had a bit of an interesting background, John, that before we met. You were actually house sitting in Portugal when we first connected.
I don't know if I have a background or a collage. I think it would be a more interesting way to. Yeah, I'm one of those that is constantly trying to figure out what to be when growing up.
Right?
I have that type of personality that is ever expansive, hence Pinteresque, and it's difficult to pin my crew down to one thing. But yeah, I've had a let's say an interesting professional life. Most of it developed in Spain, but also in the UK and in Tanzania and in Sudan. And yes, when we first met, I was experimenting with house sitting, like traveling around while working,
Yeah.
and I found a house sitting gig in a beautiful old house in the middle of nowhere in Portugal, and it was a very interesting experience. It was going to be a 3 to 4 week placement, and it ended up being more than 3 months, which I think by the end of it, I was looking like Jack Nicholson in The Shining, or something like that, like taking care of the house for way too long.
Right.
Just talking to the dogs and thinking they were humans or something. No, really, it was a very interesting thing. Like it also gave me a chance to imagine how people used to live not so long ago. Um,
When we weren't connected to the internet or phones or stuff like that.
None of that. It was a house that was like around 20-25 kilometers away from the nearest town. And then, of course, when you have a car, that's like 10 minutes away. I didn't have a car. And that put me in proper isolation if it wasn't for the internet. And, similar to your of microphone story of you having your phone play a trick on you, it becomes quite apparent how completely unprepared we are for things like living in nature or being isolated, being disconnected from the internet. We think we're sane people and we only need to have 3 hours without the internet to realize that maybe that's a bit of an overstatement.
Right.
So
Right.
yeah.
Absolutely. And so when you were in Africa, you were actually employed by the UN, if I recall
Mm.
that correctly.
I had two placements in Africa. The first one, I was working for a UN contractor, and it was a bit of a fun thing that I wanted to do. And the second time I went to Africa, I went to Tanzania, and it was a very different gig. I was employed by a Tanzanian Spanish company that run they run like hot air balloon safaris over the Tarangire area. In the area where we lived, it was maybe 3 hours away from Serengeti and Ngorongoro, but there's many other national parks like Arusha National Park, Tarangire, Manyara. So they had this hot air balloon operation, and what happened was, I mean, this was the classic story of people with good ideas and money, but not a lot of time to actually carry them through. So they needed somebody to carry it through, and they sent me. And then turns out that they didn't have the money; they just had the balloon in there. So, so it was a bit of a nightmare, but it was super interesting to live in Tanzania for close to 8 months and get to know how things work there. And then once again, how not ready for the rawness of life we are in the Western world, just strolling around thinking that everything is cool, and suddenly somebody takes a machete out and stabs you 3 times. It's like, oh, didn't see that one coming. It's like, yeah, because you're a twat. It's like
That
you live
didn't
in a,
that did that happen to you?
yes.
Where you got stabbed 3 times by a machete? How do they not know this story? I'm not sure.
Well, it's not the type of thing that I bring up a lot, but I saw a connection with the Portugal gig. It's like the idiocy of the Westerners. It's like we just walk around the street thinking that's normal. It's like in most of the world, just walking around the street safe and happy is not normal. It's an oddity, and I had the you know I had the I was gonna call it courage, but it was closer to stupidity of just walking around with my little bag where I had my laptop and I had my iPad and the papers and whatever, and there I am, white guy walking around the depths of Africa, and
Right.
then there were two kids, 18 years old. It's like, well, I'm sure that whatever this guy is carrying on that bag is worth a bit of money, and I'm sure that this guy will be fine. So just take it away from him. So yeah, that happened. It was very traumatic. I did bleed profusely, and I thought I wasn't gonna make it, but I did. So
Where did they stab you? In your torso? In your body?
no, they did my hand, then
Yeah.
they did here. Very lucky that they didn't cut it. They touched the bone. They didn't cut into any main arteries or anything. And a third one there, because I'm so thick that it took 3 stabs to realize that I was getting robbed. If I had gotten the message on the first one, I could possibly have saved the other two. But I was
Right.
kind of, no, man, relax, everything is cool. It's like, "Yeah, give me your bag." It's like, okay,
Right.
you win.
Right.
So, so yeah.
And do you think that there's a there is it that we are naive, or is it the fact that we have a false sense of security? Do you think?
Well, you have kids, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, imagine that you pamper your kids for 20 years, with good food 3 times a day and good central heating and you play nice songs on the guitar before going to bed, and you massage them in the morning before they go to work. You're driving them around in a great car, and by the time they're 20 or 25, their company relocates them to, let's say, Skid Row in LA or the Bronx,
Right.
and then suddenly it's like, oh, daddy, how come you didn't tell me that life was like that? And I think that's the experience of many Europeans. We have built a phenomenal world. So Europeans, and I include the Western world, the
Yeah.
so-called developed uh, Western world. We're spoiled, and I don't say it as a criticism necessarily. I mean, we are reaping the benefits of our industriousness and our inventive and our our technology, and all of that can be very positive, but at the same time we paid a price of, many of us are very disconnected with the rawness of life. Anything that happens, we have the police car is going to show up, we have the insurance company, the fire brigade is on alert. You have your neighbors, we're connected to the internet. It's like, if something happens to you in the Western world, you're really, really, really unlucky, or you're really, really, really dumb. It's for a real tragedy, like, you were walking to your house and somebody stabs you, the percentages, unless you live in a really rough neighborhood and you're just walking around drunk at 3 a.m. in the morning,
Right.
so I think we've disconnected from from things that are just very primal,
Right.
but also very needed. And I think that's what I liked about Africa, that it awoke something in me that the developed world still has to deliver on. And that's why I think at some point I will go back to Africa, because the rawness of it, just like there's a part of your DNA that is going like, yeah, I exist.
Right.
I need to awaken. God Almighty, that's a giraffe. And if I get lost, there's no GPS. Like, it's like
What I what what I
third right
recall it
on the third baobab. It's like there's
right.
no.
Right. Right. Yeah, and it's that aliveness that you really I remember that really had that impact on me is that you felt it kind of like you really felt like you had to show up fully and pay attention
Yeah,
because it could just go like that,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
So what do you think was what was the biggest shaper what shaped you the most from your experience in Africa, those two different gigs you had?
I think, I mean, there's many things, but to be honest with you, I couldn't be ungrateful anymore after Africa. You know, I'm not gonna I'm not gonna float above ground and say that I don't complain or I don't moan or I don't have petty complaints, but there was one distinct day that really showed me that most of the things that I'm fortunate enough to enjoy, I didn't do anything to deserve them or to gain them, and that they were just a blessing from life to me just because. And that sort of kind of broke me in a good way, like just put me on my knees. To because up until that point I was kind of the Spanish version of Indiana Jones. There I was in Africa, seeing my giraffes and my elephants and sending selfies to the family and friends. How
Right.
cool I am. Here I am, you boring Europeans going to the office Monday to Friday. Look at me, aren't I fantastic? But when you're ready and if you're lucky, and I was, Africa can show you another side. It's like, dude, you're grateful beyond your capacity to even understand it, and you've done nothing to deserve it. It's just a gift. And uh, and I, I I cried for like an hour and a half. And I was going to a party. It's not like I cried in my home. I was in a car and it just kind of knocked me down. And from then on, I had some of the happiest months of my life. Just every day, it's like, and the funny thing is that the tangible part of my life was really going very bad. The company was showing the leaks they had. Nobody was investing money, so I wasn't getting my salary paid. Some of the people that the company owed money to were showing up at my house, so I wasn't really having an easy time. But I recall living through it like I was living through a miracle, and it was. I mean, we all are every day. It's a cliche and whatever, but yeah, you only have to have your internet disconnected for 2 hours to realize how how, how easy the mirage of safety can
Right.
disappear in front of your eyes, and then where are you? You don't know. But
Right.
yeah,
It's interesting because often I'll hear, as most of you know, I'm Canadian, and I find what's really interesting is that the Canadians that complain about Canada have ones that have never actually been to a developing country. They may have been to the States, they may have been to a Club Med or on a cruise ship, but they've never really been in a developing country. And it's kind of like you can spot them from a mile away because it's just like they just kind of, yeah, this is, they don't understand how clean water, how like fortunate we're clean water, and the fact that, generally the police don't kick in the door and come and arrest you because they or shoot you because they can, right? Like
yeah.
all that kind of safety. So
Mm.
um well, very cool. And yeah, I have not been to Africa. That's not that I've traveled much, but that is definitely something I would like to do one day and have that experience and be the tourist that does all the tourist stuff and seeing all that.
Go
Uh,
to a mission. I mean, if you can at some point when your kids grow up, just maybe spend one month on a
building something.
mission.
Yeah.
Buildings, but no, don't go to an orphanage from a rich NGO whose owners go to Zanzibar every 2 months to relax from the stress. look for a couple of priests that have been there for 30 years, who can actually speak Swahili and know the members of the tribe by first names. And go there. You don't need to be a Christian, but just find somebody that has lived there, that has included themselves in the community and have had a long impact. And just spend a month with them. Maybe you can, teach something, or, you know, lots of people go to Africa thinking they need help painting a school. It's like, look, the Africans may not know how to put rockets in the sky, but they're good enough to paint a school. But if you go there and teach some of the coaching skills or leadership skills you have, or you can do something that you can really feel good about, and then yes, go on a safari and go to Zanzibar. But at least like breathing Africa, just letting it touch you, because for most people they just land in Kilimanjaro airport, they get the taxi to the hotel, they jump in the safari car. Oh my god, we saw those giraffes and elephants, they were just amazing, and they just send the Instagram back home. I've been to Africa. No, you haven't. You have not. You were in a 3D postcard. That's where you were.
Right.
You've been into a National Geographic IMAX 3D experience, but it's
Right.
great. It's like you should do it. It's fantastic. The beauty. You cannot see any interventions from mankind. You don't see a electrical tower or a telephone line. It's just raw, and it reminds you where you come from, and that's brilliant.
Right. Now, as everyone can see, there's a microphone that's hanging upside down on that, and you wear a couple different hats. One of the hats that you meant wear many different hats, but for essence of this conversation, you are the guest presenter on Friday for Yoga Nidra, and
Mhm,
basically doing that. So you
mhm.
have you do. You instruct people on Yoga Nidra, and we're going to talk about that in a second. But you also have a service where you edit podcasts for people and edit audio on that. Would you care to talk about that?
I care very much, but I think Chris had a question. I don't know if this is a good time, or maybe
Oh
he
yeah,
was
go
just
ahead.
saying
Yeah,
hello.
Chris, do you have a
Um,
question?
I have a question for John and Luke. So, John, I am actually going to put you on the spot, so please forgive me. But you, I'm curious. I'm kind of curious what Luke thinks of your microphone. I have an idea, but I'm just kind of curious. So, I think I'm actually putting Luke on the spot as well.
Hmm. Oh man, yeah.
Like that. But I think you'll
That,
give it
that
away if I
that's
hold it like this for too long.
that's how you do it. That's how you do it, upside
Yeah.
down. Actually, I have the one upside down. This is no, it's a very
And
good it's a very good microphone.
I know why Chris is asking. I know why Chris is asking.
and John's, I mean, John's voice comes through very good, actually. So
Oh,
Mm,
thank you,
I think that's good on John.
thank you. It's not my best placement, but at the moment I'm in a temporary location. I have a very very small desk, so I thought this was the best compromise. I normally like to have it like more type of radio voice. It's more, but at the moment that would do.
I think that's actually, I think that's actually a really good placement. That's
Thank
my
you,
opinion, but
thank you,
that's an
Chris.
amateur opinion.
It
Just
is
like
super reassuring as a sound nerd. The fact that I have a good feedback on this one is really reassuring.
where Chris is, I think Chris is coming from on this is that I do a webinar, and I don't think I've had a chance to tell you about this, which is video interviews, getting out of your own way. So it's the do's and don'ts of doing a video interview, not what you say, but all the technology. And so one of the things I cover is microphones, and I say you can buy too much microphone, and this is an example of too much microphone.
Agreed.
Yeah, and the fact that it is so sensitive, it is so well made, and that it's unilateral. Is that the right term for it?
It has different placements. It has different pickup patterns, but the thing, it's a condenser microphone. Condenser microphones are super sensitive. That's why they're so good. But picks everything up, including the echo of the room. Like I'm using this one because I've had it for a while, and at the moment I don't need to change I mean, for what I do, because I don't have my own show, I produce for other people. This is good enough for whatever I do. But I wouldn't recommend it for a podcaster, for example, unless they have a dedicated place to record, where this microphone would be a good thing. So
So
yeah.
Chris, was that your where you're going with this, or am I wrong? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Uh, well,
Sorry if I put you on the spot.
No, it's perfect. It's good. Good.
yeah.
I don't have any microphone shame.
Um, so so the tell us about the editing of the podcast that you do, your specialty. This is a chance just to let us know.
Well, it is. It's kind of an interesting turn of events. I'll try and cut a long story short. Short. I've been recording music, my own, and with my bands ever since I was maybe 14, 15. Back in the day when computers were only starting to develop the technology to be able to do home recordings. Before that, you had to go to a studio, and as a 14-year-old, you would go to a studio and go like, wow. But as soon as a computer could handle a microphone, we started, like my friends and I and my bands, we started to record. So over the years, I got quite good at producing things that sounded very good with, let's say, limited means. They don't have to be bad means, but limited. Most people are not gonna purchase a mixing desk and prepare their rooms an amazing capturing of sound. But thank God we have the technology these days that we can make something sound very decent, to the point that I have recorded things in my bedroom that went on national TV, like music for ads and things like that. So it was super weird to watch TV. My ad comes on, and I recorded that in that room over there. So it's actually in this very room. I recorded a couple of ads in this very room back in the day. So I was at one point. I've had a career in online marketing and digital marketing, and I grew a bit disillusioned with the whole social media online world. It's like it's too much for me. I must be growing old. But I noticed that there were a few friends of mine that they were producing podcasts and they were lost. They didn't know what microphone to buy. They didn't know how to record. They thought that you just record and publish. It's like having a blog, you write and publish. Well, it's not as simple. And I started helping these people, in exchange for cash. And a little bit of an activity started coming up. That was a bit more than a year ago. So at the moment I'm producing 3 different podcasts, and there may be a fourth. The lady is kind of hesitating about the project, but also I bring to the table, all that I learned in the ad agencies and working for brands such as Nestle and Johnson and Johnson and Mazda and Bayer. And so I was fortunate enough to get good mentors, like the people that carry these brands. They are top notch. So I got a good schooling with them, and then I had my own blog and my own YouTube channel that acquire certain notoriety, and at one point I kind of closed shop, both in the big digital marketing thing and in my own personal blowing my own trumpet as a blogger and as a YouTuber. And I thought that I could contribute with that. It's like I got a bit of an activity, and podcasts are going well, but I'm very interested in sound and in music. I think sound is to the 21st century what the printed word was back in the day when the printer was invented. Before you had to write down every book and just copy it manually. And before you had to copy CDs or switch on TV and go see somebody speak. And now anybody with a microphone can produce something, and sound has a phenomenal emotional capacity of touching the heart. It just bypasses the mind in many ways. So if somebody has the inkling of trying to produce something that is going to touch the heart, or that's going to have a certain quality, or they want to reach the audience with gusto, I'm happy to help. And at the moment I'm also uh, expanding. It's not only podcasts. If somebody has an online class or an online course they need to produce, I'm going very much into guided meditations as well. So I think there's a market there for people that teach meditation and do guided meditations, but they don't have an idea of how to properly mix it and create an atmosphere and make the voice sound smooth and gentle and not cutting and harsh, and all of that takes proper recording, choosing the tools, the recording environment, the proper mixing, the balancing between the voice and the music, the compression, and then the whole industry mambo jumbo of different loudness levels and all of that that people don't want to bother with.
Right.
I've
But
been helping.
are integral to making sure that people actually listen to it and come back for more.
Yeah, and if you have if people want to share whatever they want to be sharing, they don't want to become sound engineers, most of them.
Right.
So, and they don't need to. Thank God for capitalism. Some of us can help. Yeah, it's like I can do this. You need that. Shall we come to an agreement? And it has been a beautiful experience because in this world of hype, I think the online world has a lot of hype. Producing podcast is a very sobering experience. You make bread, you sell bread. I'll edit an episode, I'll sell you an episode. I'll set the platform. We'll find your microphone. So something very tangible and very very real. I mean, as tangible as digital things can be, um, is something very down to earth and very artisan. And I think that in the midst of the crazy world that we live in, has provided a rootedness to my existence. So I'm looking forward to continuing and seeing where it takes me, because I don't have a specific goal of just doing podcasts. I want to see where sound and music take me creatively. And I still love music, so I see myself writing music for the rest of my days. So hopefully I will find a channel for my own music as well. So yeah.
I do want to come back to the music you've produced, but before we go there on that, where do you what's the question here? As a video producer, there's a very serious disconnect I find with people of a really well produced video and the knowledge of what it takes to have a well produced video, all the skills that come into that and everything on that, because well, I'll just take out my camera, I'll just take out my cell phone and start shooting stuff and have that. And I find that people confuse something as visually very spectacular, very very visually well done, but it has no meaning, no substance. It's kind of shallow. It's like, so what? Yeah, that was really cool. So what on that? But there's a disconnect that people have between what it takes to do a really well to really produce a video. Do you find there's a disconnect for audio and for recordings for people in a similar way?
I have found it with some people that never became clients, and for a good reason.
Right.
It's like anything. When you don't know about something, you don't know about something, and you think things are easy. It's like you see somebody dance, and you think, oh, that's easy, and you go try and dance, and then you realize that you come from a different planet, or something. So I found it in several occasions. I think it's. I mean, for me, it's all about the attitude. If somebody comes to me and says, like, "Look, I have no idea. I need your expertise. You guide me." That's the best type of client, because they know that they don't know, and they're glad to be helped. And then you can really do a lot of progress very quickly, and they are so grateful that you chose a microphone for them, and you chose them the difference, and you send them a video. It's like, look, this is what I did with your voice. Can you hear the difference? And they go like, wow, I never knew there was so much work involved in making a voice sound good. It's like, thank you for showing me. I'm glad to pay. And there are other people that they just don't have that in their radar. It's not important to them. It's like, okay, they don't care if they record the podcast with their phone or with the telephone little microphone there. And I try as much as I can to not work with them, because I work with people that appreciate that level of quality. That's where I get the satisfaction. But yeah, I mean, these crafts, man. I mean, we have so many new crafts that nobody knows what they're about. It's like having a blog 15 years ago was about writing something that you liked and clicking publish. And now it's all about SEO positioning and meta tags and connection with different social networks and categories and ranking. And it's like, oh, I have a blog also, you write and publish. Like, no, you have no idea. I had to, I had to take a PhD in blogging just to publish a
That's right.
blog. It's
Yeah.
like things are getting more and more and more and more sophisticated, and I think that takes away a bit of the magic that the internet had in its early days. But there's always going to be a place for quality, I think.
Yeah. Well, and one of the things that John kind of alluded to is that we were looking at working on a project together for someone who's a friend of mine, and this friend was really quite shocked as to all the layers that we were talking about that you had to consider. And one of the best reframes for me was to be able to somehow express the idea that you have to understand the different environments that people are going to listen to your material, and those different environments will have a huge impact as to what the audio experience is going to be. So listening in your car versus listening to earpods, listening to these other things on that's going to it's going to have a significance on that.
Mhm.
And why is there so much difference, John? Like, is it the ambient noise that affects it, or what is it that changes where you're listening?
Well, I mean, it's like, again, like this 10 different variables. Are you on the beach with the ocean waves? Are you in the gym with music? Do you have like closed like earphones like this, or are they like crappy ones? Are they good ones? So at the end of the day, and I mean, the musicians face the same problem. What the sound engineer and the master engineer have to do is to produce a file that sounds best across multiple devices. And that's a very, very, very complicated thing to do. It's easy in a podcast. I'm not going to claim that my job is that difficult. But in the case of music, it's a very complicated thing to do, because nothing is going to sound as amazing as the mix that the mixing engineer did in that studio for those speakers, for that room, with those microphones. That's kind of great. That's where the magic is made. But now they have to play that thing in the car, and they have to play that thing in crappy headphones, and they have to play it on TV for when the music video goes. And now they have to start compressing different frequencies so everything kind of evens out. And they have to also make it loud enough for the industry standards, not too low, so when they play the song nobody hears it. So all of that is it's an art in itself. You have to find that balance that is gonna work every time. And things get very geeky, but people get paid. People that do the mixing and mastering for people like Daft Punk or Coldplay, or back in the day Michael Jackson or whatever, those people earn lots of money, because you can have the best band in the world, but the mix and the mastering, they make the album. Those guys make the album. So
I've had the opportunity to hang out with sound techs for bands,
Mhm.
and massive ego. The ones that are doing the sound and they're saying, "Hey, if it wasn't for me, the band would sound like crap,"
And they're
right?
right.
Yeah, they're right. John has a question about how long does it take you, John, to produce a 1 hour show?
um John, is everything else done? Is the podcast already like launched? Does it have the website? Do we have the intro and the outro music already selected, and the intros and outros recorded? If all of that is already set up, and that takes us maybe a month or two, depending on how busy people are. If all of that is right, and there's no mistakes in recording, nothing that I need to cut, nothing that I have to balance, then 1 hour podcast would take me more or less 1 hour. But those are the exception in my experience. Mostly, there's plenty of balancing to do, or the internet connection goes down and they have to resume the interview, or somebody, makes a mistake, or the client sends an email and goes like, well, from minute 25 to 32, please cut that. So there's always additional layers. And then once it's edited, then I have to produce the file, and I have to add the meta tags to the file, and I have to upload it to the platform, and then I have to be in touch with the client. So I think that a good average for me is to allocate 2.5 hours per episode. And it's not so much how long the episode is, although, of course, if I have a 3-hour episode, it's not the same as a 20-minute one. But it's all the work that it goes around it, the emailing back and forth, silly things. A client sent me the intros for a couple of episodes the other day, and she had misselected her microphone. So she sent me the intros recorded with her laptop microphone. So I had allocated that morning to work on that project. And when I downloaded the files, I had to write back and go like, look, those files are no good. You need to re-record them with your proper microphone and send them again. So that's my morning gone. I have to just rearrange, So, but yeah, 2 to 3 hours per episode is a good estimate. There will be some, especially if they're short episodes, 15, 20 minutes, that I can do in an hour and a half. So, yeah.
So when I happen to need a new videographer, this is what my interviews go like. Your number one priority is the sound, then framing the picture right, which is a very close second. But I say to him, I will crucify you if you get the sound wrong, because I can screw up the sound. Because my videos are talking head videos. For the most part, it's just people talking. So it's not as if we're depending upon a lot of visuals on top of that. It's not that I don't do those, but if the sound is not nailed, that's a problem. No one's going to fight to hear the sound. So that's the one thing I'm very clear on. And then the visual, and then other stuff that goes on that. What would be, if somebody was wanting to, what advice would you give to someone to say, what are my top considerations of being able to start recording audios for a podcast? What would you say those are?
Choosing a good microphone, and by good I don't mean expensive. I mean the proper tool for the job.
Mm-hmm.
That would be the first consideration. Also related to that, not separate from that, is what is going to be your recording environment most of the times. Like, are you going to have a dedicated room, or are you going to just be doing it one day here, one day there? And also, what is the goal of the podcast? I think a lot of decisions get themselves made by automatic pilot once you know what you're doing. And what I find is that many people like the idea of starting a podcast, but they don't know why. They don't know if they want to do, if they just want to rumble with their friends and just have a nice time interviewing cool people. They don't know if they want to position their brand. They don't know if they want to sell something. So some people do, but I found that some people don't, and also some companies don't. You have to have a podcast because 10 years ago you had to have a blog, and now you have to have a YouTube channel, now you have to have a podcast. So once you know what your goal is, then lots of different decisions get made. Which platform are you gonna host your files? That's a biggie. Because if you're gonna do premium content, you will need a type of platform. If you're gonna do free, regular podcast listening, then you have free platforms, paid platforms. How much are you gonna pay? Are you gonna do a YouTube channel of your podcast? Maybe you need a platform that actually does that for you instead of you having to convert the videos. So I think it's on the technological side, having the good tool for the job, and then having the clarity of what the heck you're doing and why. And once you know that, then you choose, or it's easier to choose. Yeah.
I'm working with someone right now who came up with an idea, developed the website, and then said, "What do you think?" And Yeah, it's been a stressful conversation because I'm saying what I'm saying is, well, what about this? Because if you consider this, then there's this, this, and this, and if not that, well, then what about this? Because there's this, this, and this, and I think there's a tendency to focus on the action at the very end. To building the website can be fun. It can be kind of novel. You can focus your attention on it, right? But if
It's
you don't have,
fantastic.
what's that?
It's fantastic. I'm doing my website. You feel so productive. You know, you don't
Right,
have the
yeah.
business. You don't have the business plan yet, but God Almighty, the website is looking amazing.
That's right. That's right. So what I actually said to him, as I said, is that you put the cart before the horse. And his response was, well, if I don't do that, I get nothing done.
Hmm.
And so it's like, okay, that's okay. There's some thoughts that come with that. And, scarcity mindset and stuff like that. But it's the work is really everything you talked about, wrapping your brain around what is the intent, how do you define success, what would
Hmm.
success look like in this, and is success 100,000 listeners or 20,000 listeners? Is success generating revenue, or is it not?
Or
It
is it
like
having some fun? You know, it's like I have people that wanted to jump too quickly into podcasting because it was part of their business, and it's like, look, if this is going to be part of your business, let's sit down and think a strategy. Let's do some research because this is not you having fun with your mates. So it's better that you just hold the reins and just do it properly. But also, there are other people that never launch a podcast, and the only thing they need to do is just grab a microphone and talk. It's like, look, you're just trying to have some fun and test and test the format. It's super fun to talk with your friends and publish it, you know. So some people need to think less and act more because they're drafting and they're
spin
toying
right.
around, and it's great, you know. It's just and many of the most successful online projects started as, you know, a couple of twats having some fun, you know. It's like, and that's possibly what gave it its unique, fresh, you know, soul to the show, you know. Like Tim Ferriss is a great example. He started his podcast because he was tired of writing books and he was in between projects, and he went like, okay, let's just
who
drink
who
tequila.
who is this?
Tim Ferriss,
Okay.
Tim Ferriss, who has one of the best blogs and podcasts in the world. His first three episodes, apparently, he's totally drunk on tequila, and he kind of, you know, he makes fun of himself now that he has one of the biggest podcasts ever. But he says like it was a fun project. It was a play and toy around, no need to be serious project, because writing a bestseller book almost killed him. You know, it's like writing that sort of book is a humongous task. And he was like, I just want to talk to interesting people and some friends of mine that I know I have fun with. I'll just stick a microphone and have some fun. And that developed into a project. And some people need to do more of that and less of, oh my God, what am I gonna do? I need to hit 20,000 followers in the first 6 months. I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that. It's like, okay, you know, that, you know, like there's nothing wrong with it, but the problem with success, again, depends how you define it. And then once some people are successful, then everybody tries to follow the same template, and their creativity is lost. Which is fine. Some people don't need to be creative; just deploy good information, you know, or provide good content, and they don't need to be so original. But you know, maybe I'm more attracted to people that make something happen when they don't quite know what they're doing, because that, I
Right.
think that's art. You know, that's true art. It's like, we have something here, we don't know what it is, but we're gonna just keep pulling from this thread, see what happens. You know, and I love those stories. I hope I will be able to participate in one of those, or otherwise I have to create my own something. But yeah, but I was famous already. I don't know if I want to go there again.
Because there is a price with it, and there's a cost that comes with that for sure.
God Almighty, you talk about it.
Yeah. So, Let's just talk about a second about actually a designated space, because I know that that is something that's huge on this. So what comes into to be able to do good enough, and I use the word not exceptional, not outstanding, but what's the like as a baseline when it comes to an environment? What, like, my environment is very different than your environment by purely what we could see, because we have like, so this would be, I know this would not be good because of the echo and that kind of stuff in it. And then of course, if you have something as powerful as this, then you're picking up more of it. So is a smaller space better than a larger space all the time?
Not necessarily. Well, let's take the obvious ones out of the way. The place has to be as silent as we can make it. There's like no kids playing, no dogs barking, no fridges and washing machine running or cars out the window. We can kind of assume that that's one of the obvious ones, but not always. So that would be the first. The second priority you have is to avoid the echoes of the room. And every room has echoes to a certain degree. And then it's always better if you're in a room that has bookshelves like John has. John's environment would be. I mean, I don't know the rest of the room, but he has plenty of paper and boxes and things that are going to absorb uh, echoes. That, for example, the room that I'm in and the room that you're at are not going to absorb that well. I have a big bed here, which is good, but I have a flat piano and there is all walls. So the sound will be echoey. I mean, right now possibly Zoom is compressing and doing its thing, so some of that is minimized by the algorithm. But when you record a podcast on high quality, the best thing you can do is to avoid the echo. And there's a few ways to go about it. One of them is the microphone that you have, Luke, is is a very good idea. That's how sports people do it when they are commenting, and whatever. You have a very close range microphone that don't pick the room. Um, but unfortunately, and I think this is a need of the market that I don't know how it hasn't been solved yet. I haven't seen a proper USB broadcasting high quality headphone with microphone. I've seen the gaming ones, that are good to say you got a shooter on your right. But if you want to deploy proper professional sound, um, you need to go through an audio interface. You don't yet have a USB just plug into your computer high quality headset, or I haven't found it. Let's say I haven't found it. Like I haven't found any review of somebody going like, look, this USB solution is like this radio solution that gets plugged into a mix. So the next best thing is dynamic microphone. This one's a condenser microphone. Dynamic microphones tend to be more close ranged, but they still pick the room. And I have some clients that work with microphones I recommend, and we still have to work hard. And then I found things that make help you with that. Like for example, this thingy over here. I don't know if you'll be able to see it, but this thingy over here can create like a little house for the microphone.
Oh, right. That's like foam. Is the foam rubber?
Yeah, it's foam. So you basically what you do is you position your microphone inside of this, and it doesn't isolate it. But what it does is when you speak into the microphone, your voice is not going to the next wall and bouncing back. Gets absorbed here. So this doesn't impede noise coming from the outside, but it impedes your voice to be projected into the ether and hence bouncing. So, and that's $35. So there's things that you can do to produce a proper recording. And I see that I have a message from John here. I think let me just read it.
It's funny.
Oh well, John, you just have to start a podcast now, man. It's like sorry, sorry, sweetie. It's either this or I have to buy a studio. Some guy from Spain told me. So I'm happy to write a letter from my company. It's like after careful consideration, we recommend keep the books. Yeah.
The round thing that was on that. What I know it helps the sound, but I forget, is it about the popping or the S's or that? Yeah.
So we have one thing.
Or is it just the fly swatter?
You got me. I was trying to present myself as a sophisticated technician, but I can see that it's gonna be no way. So we have this thing called plosives. Plosives are those phonemes of those words that I don't know if it's words or letters. Sorry for that. I'm not a native English speaker, as you can tell. But there's certain words that make your mouth project like a cannon of air, like the P's are that example. When you say something like P's, plosive, or the F's or the B's, it's just a bam. It requires you to just go. And when you record in high quality, not like now when we are on Zoom, Zoom is compressing and doing things, you get this boom effect. Sometimes you hear it on radio and somebody goes like, the president of the republic, and you hear the bang. So one way to mitigate that is using this baby, because what the air does is it goes in a direct line from here to the membrane of the microphone, and it hits the membrane directly. So when you put this here, this diffuses the air. So the air, instead of going like this, once it passes through the filter, it goes like that. So you still get the sound, but you don't get the physical air moving the membrane that much. So sometimes you see on videos how people just position it here, like it's just close to the microphone.
Yeah.
The idea is to put it as far away as you can, because the idea is that once the air passes through here, it diffuses more the further away it is.
I've only seen them like right here, like right next to the microphone on that. Is that what the foam is on this microphone too? Is that part of that idea? That's to do that? Okay. Yeah. I actually thought it was a spit guard initially, but I found out it had a spit guard, spit not going into the microphone.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, like professional voiceover actors, they actually practice their plosives to avoid the pa. And they one of the things they do, they take like a napkin and the exercise, like one of these thin paper napkins, and the exercise they put over here like that, and they have to speak and say the P without making the exactly. They have to talk without
and still be legible.
Exactly, that's the Jedi trick. You need to be able to deliver without making the napkin move.
Okay.
But those are professional actors, so for most people, this is a good solution. If you're recording at home, because it's not always needed, but if you hear the recording and you're like, oh my god, my plosives are like terrible.
Yeah.
You can play with the microphone positioning. You can maybe, instead of talking directly, just look over there but still get it. But if you want to have this kind of really close proximity effect, welcome to the Here to There show with Luc Bouchard.
Right. Gives that different effect.
Yeah.
And of course, when we see people on YouTube or whatnot have their microphone like this or like you hanging upside down, they're just trying to look cool, right? That doesn't solve any other purpose. I know that's not true.
There's an element of coolness. Definitely. Actually, the ideal positioning for a microphone of these characteristics, a condenser microphone, would be for me to have it actually up here, pointing at me and not visible, because my voice is going in this direction, not in that direction. So this is not a good position, but I just don't have a way to do it. I don't have the tools with me. So the idea would be to have it up here, but not visible,
Okay.
like unless you want to look cool, therefore you find a way to make it look cool. And then, when it comes from the left or the right, most likely the guy doesn't have enough desk space or just interferes with his work. So it just has, like the microphone stand somewhere and just put them there. I mean, they may be the person that does it out of looking amazing or whatever, but at the end of the day, you have to find the best compromise between your broadcast on video if you're doing it, but also capturing with sound. So you'll find your solution.
And the reality is that there's a lot of vibration that is picked up from your desk on this.
Yeah.
So which is why you actually want it to be separate, so you're not on that on
exactly. Or you want to have something like this.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys can see this, but let me see if I can point it out. But this one, they call it a spider in Spanish, but basically these are some rubber bands that absorb.
Oh, right. Yeah, on that.
Yeah. So it's literally floating there. So if I happen to touch this, maybe you hear it, but it kind of wobbles. So it doesn't capture the heat. So there's many ways to set up a microphone. But that's the classic one, when somebody puts the microphone just on the desk and they're conducting the podcast interview and they're going like.
Right. Yeah, just even touching my and advancing my slides when I was doing my online course. I would hear that and whatnot, and always trying to figure it out, and so.
It's not an easy thing. That's the thing. People think I'll buy a microphone. It'll be easy. It's like you have no idea.
Yeah, that's right. And there's a correlation as the easier it looks, the more work somebody's done.
Yeah.
To make it look on that.
Definitely.
Okay, we are at the top of the hour. I'm going to show, as I normally break my the Here to There show into 2 segments. We're going to show a video for Phil, and this is 1 minute 27 seconds long. I don't think I've showed it yet. It's Bare Bones and Ralph Waldo Emerson. So let me just get that set up, and before this starts, there we go. And I just need to do this. And then also share. And I'm just going to use the washroom really quick, so you're going to see me turn off my camera. And just okay. And I think we're good to go. Susan.
I definitely agree it's getting worse. And you know what happened the last time your inner ear stopped working? You like threw up all over the camera. Like literally all over the, oh, Phil, we're on. This is Bare Bones Videos. I'm Luc Bouchard. This is my co-host Phil. Phil decided to dress up today and put on a tie, but we're both kind of feeling off kilter. I'm not sure what's going on there. Phil, what's our quote for the day? It's by Ralph Emerson. That would be Ralph Waldo Emerson. And if you're wondering where Waldo is, he's right here. What lies behind you and what lies in front of you pales in comparison to what lies inside of you. All right. And Phil, what's your reaction to Mr. Emerson? Attitude sets your altitude. If you have a favorite quote, send it to us, and Phil will send you a picture of he and I. And please subscribe to my YouTube video channel, and also like this video. You take care now.
All right. Those shenanigans were brought to you by someone who has too much time on his hand. Too much time on your hands. What to do when you are, for God's sake.
Is that going to be the new webinar? What to do when you have too much time in your hands?
What's that?
That's going to be a new webinar. What to do when you have
too much time on your hands. Right.
Yeah.
On that. Cool. Okay. Well, we are in the second part of today's Here to There show. John, you're still good to hang out? You're still good? I'm not sure.
I'm super good to hang out,
okay.
Man. Yeah.
So now is the opportunity to ask your questions about if you want to do a podcast. We do actually still need to talk about Yoga Nidra. So we'll see if there's any questions with basically recording audio before we change gears into the Yoga Nidra part of the conversation. Oh, there's some more chats. And let me just look here.
I think Chris has a question.
I kind of just a comment.
Go ahead.
Yep.
I actually saw a thing last. I think it was like 1 or 2 weeks ago about podcasting from a. It was actually from a. It was from a different uh, different meetup, and the idea that I saw from somewhere else to is that you can record. You can do your podcast on Zoom with video, and then you can always you can always repurpose your podcast for either video or audio or audio
Hmm.
in the future. And uh, I've noticed that actually. So I just subscribe to Robert Kiyosaki's email list. Just because I'm just out of curiosity, and
Hmm.
a lot of times he'll do a podcast, but then on YouTube you see him on video with his if he's interviewed someone.
Hmm.
And it's actually really nice to see him just to see the video to go with the audio.
Yeah.
That's just
Yeah.
just a just a comment.
Yeah. I personally prefer video. Like I don't know. Like, I mean, I do listen to sometimes the news or a podcast in audio format. If I'm driving, I try not to watch a video at the same time. Um, but it's in this digital world, um, I think the closest we can get to the human connection, the better. So in that case, I think video is superior to audio, but not in every situation. There's something very intimate about audio. There's something very personal about having a voice, talk to you on your headphones. And I think of my grandparents, and radio used to be a big companion, and I like that. I like that about the sound format. You're doing your gym routine, or you're cooking, or you're taking a walk, and then you play somebody that you love, and it's a completely different experience. We live in an era of customized experiences. I'm sure there's people that walk around the park watching a video. But I mean, if I'm at home and I want to really learn about something, I'll try video first. But if I'm going to go for a walk, or if I'm going to take a long drive, or if I'm cooking and just prepping and doing the boring stuff, then I'll try a podcast or audio. But it's true that people that are super super sophisticated in content creation, they find ways to repurpose. So they go like, okay, I'm gonna do this interview with so and so, and I'm gonna get a blog post, a podcast, a video, and an online course out of it. And it's like, yeah, why not? Because if you can do 4 jobs in one go, why not? Like,
And
I
the
understand.
reality with that is that every one of those has multiple layers that you have to nail if you're going to do them right.
Yeah,
Right. So it's
yeah.
one thing to say I'm going to have a video of me doing it and do that, but if you don't know how to get the video right, and it's the audio should be fine, but if you can't see you because your situation and all the stuff on that, right? Like there's the many layers to do these multiple things, and they're all individual disciplines. So
Yeah, they are, and I mean, and some people master them all. And I think I should also, I mean, after having done my big apology of quality and high quality sound and all of that, I think it's also worth mentioning that some people do put out amazing content with low quality, and that's also fine. You know, there's some people out there that I wouldn't mind listening, uh, no matter how they would record. And I think they know it, and I think they know that the important thing is the message. And some of them, they started just out of some sort of an accident, or because they were experimenting and they got big, um, and they have upgraded their production as they went along. um, but there's also something kind of genuine about somebody opening the laptop and hitting record and then just leaving you completely spellbound. It's like, dude, I don't know who you are or where you come from, but you're amazing. And I don't care if you don't have a Blue Yeti in a perfect recording environment. It's just awesome. It's like, I want to marry you, whatever. And that's also true. And that's also true, and that's beautiful, that those people out there exist. Um, so it's a beautiful
Yeah.
world, the
Yeah,
internet
and
world.
it's really that idea of having a message that is compelling, and people will be very forgiving. But if the message is okay, and
Yeah.
the recording is not that recording that compelling, then that's a different thing altogether.
Well, and it's also when you are attempting or presenting yourself as a sort of professional, but you sound like crap. I
Yeah.
think that dissonance is the one that bothers me. It's like, if you're an honest dude or lady or whatever that is really trying to communicate something, and I can tell that you're passionate, and your job is done when you communicate the message, then fine, because job done. I think the problem I have is when somebody's trying to present themselves as an expert on something, or they're trying to just go, "Oh, look at me, and I'm amazing because my company is blah blah blah." It's like, you're recording in your bedroom, and I can tell. At least at least get a bloody microphone and a chroma key and pretend that you're in the Bahamas or something.
Yeah, that's
Like,
right.
if if you're gonna con me, do it properly.
Right.
And that's really what can happen when somebody has good intentions and they're trying to get some career going. Like, I'm not saying that everybody like that is in that position is a con, but that's what bothers me, when somebody's trying but not getting it. But there's other people just go like, "Hey, I want to talk today about this." It's like, great, thank you.
Very cool. There was a question about, and I know that this is probably a question you don't want to answer, John, but how much I expect to spend on to equip my office to do a reasonable podcast?
To quit your office? How do you mean to quit your job?
How much should I expect to spend
Hmm?
to equip my office to
To
do a
equip.
reasonable quality? Yeah, equip.
To equip.
Or you thought you said
Okay.
quit?
Yeah. I was thinking like how do I do a podcast so I quit my job? It's like, whoa, are we going there? Um, assuming that the office is silent, let's say around $100 on a decent microphone. I'm gonna assume that there's a laptop somewhere, a decent laptop. The laptop is not from 1995 or anything like that. So around $100 on the microphone, and maybe the pop filter or the stand. Maybe if you want to be very more realistic, just you can assume $200 for the stand or the arm or the pop filter. And if the office is very echoey, well, then maybe we need to look into something like this, or other solutions, or maybe just putting something on the walls to avoid something, and that's something to consider separately. But just technology that one can get from Amazon or any other place, 80 to $100 for the mic, and then another $100 for whatever you need to install it. You already have a laptop, you should be good to go. And then of
And
course, if I was given the money, I would spend 250 on the microphone. But I've had good results with clients with a specific microphone. The Samsung Q2U is I think around $90, $85. And it's USB. It's good entry level. It's not going to take you to the BBC, but you will sound very nice.
right, and the important thing is the USB. So we don't want to use the mini going into your computer.
That's sorry, that's so obvious to me that I haven't even mentioned it. No, the mini jack, because that mini jack wasn't designed for professional recording in mind. That was designed for conversations such as this. So you have a mini jack that goes into lots of circuitry and electricity and static, and there's always going to be a hiss or a buzz or something in the background. So you go USB,
Yeah.
that's mid-range, beautiful sound. Uh, I say mid-range because you are not buying a specialized audio interface where you could plug anything. I'm saying that it's going one level up from the mini jack, and you have amazing USB microphones out there. Amazing. amazing. And then you have amazing microphones that are not USB. If you want to use those, you need to have an audio interface, something that looks. I mean, one simple one looks like this. Yeah.
Right.
So this one you can plug microphones there or other
Yeah.
instruments or something, and some people use them. I do, but it's a different setup. It's more you have to start buying more stuff, and you don't need to if you have a USB microphone. So
Cool.
yeah.
Okay, well, before we shift gears into this Friday's talk, I'm just wondering, does anyone else have any questions about for John about doing audio recordings on specifically anything that last questions? Okay,
Cool.
so that was one hat, and I realize I'm just going to move myself a bit closer here. So that was one hat that you wear. Another hat that you wear is that of a yoga instructor.
I do not dare to call myself a yoga instructor. I
Okay.
do not. I think that another hat that I wear that you and I know is maybe the coaching, personal development, growth hat. I think I've been interested in personal growth and the therapeutic world and the spiritual world forever, really. I think I have a sensitivity or a appreciation for the subtle things, like good music or good art and I don't know how I have a thirst for growth, and that has taken me, to coaching and to different disciplines, and lately to yoga nidra. But I'm a student. I'm a beginner. I'm humbled by the practice. I wouldn't call myself an instructor, even though I got my. You're right. I got my little certification that said like you are now an instructor of yoga nidra. It's like, okay, if you say so, but.
So
but
on
really,
paper,
okay, on
you
paper.
have your
Yoga
paper in
Nidra
that way.
instructor level 1
Right.
and 2, that's brilliant,
Right.
fantastic. Yes, I'm an expert. Sorry, yes, I am.
That's
I'm
great.
actually going to give a talk in the show this Friday. I don't know if you know the presenter, but I'm
Sounds
on
like
it.
a smart guy to invite you on.
Yeah, man, it's high quality people I fly with. It's,
Well, with that caveat, the fact that you're very clear that you're not prepared to endorse yourself as an instructor, let's talk about Yoga Nidra.
okay.
And the first thing I need to clarify is, and you had to point this out to me, when I hear Yoga Nidra, I'm thinking dead dog pose. No, yeah, yeah. I'm thinking these,
Yeah.
these beautiful bodies at 25 that are just like Adontis, and
Yeah.
I feel like I can't possibly show up in the room because there's two of me.
Yeah.
There's two of them for one of me, type of thing, right? So
Yeah.
yeah.
Now that you mentioned this, if I was going to look into this yogic discipline from a purely selfish point of view, I should have chosen a different discipline. If it was about the ladies and stuff, but no.
So, so when I hear Yoga Nidra, we're not talking posing. We're talking about, so that's the first thing that confused me about it. Is I was actually thinking like doing a pose on that, and yoga doesn't necessarily mean always about stretching and that kind of stuff. Is that correct?
That's correct. I think there's many yogas, and there's one yoga. Yoga means many things, but at the end of the day, is a good starting point that I understand is a good one. Is thinking of yoga as union. It's putting together things that are separate, and that's kind of the goal of any spiritual pursuit. Even Christianity is becoming one with God in a way. Or any spiritual discipline worth its salt is going to take you there. I think yoga is very systematic and very methodological in many ways, and the yogic tradition is very good at mapping every path and every technique, but they put yoga to anything that will facilitate that union. So you have karma yoga, which is the yoga of work and action. You have bhakti yoga, which is the yoga of devotion. You have Raja yoga, which is many different types of yoga. But at the end of the day, all of them are looking for the same thing, which is taking you back to your original nature, so to speak. It's like showing you your, let's say, God-given connection with your creator, and that union, that instead of the separation of me and that, or me and God, it's like ultimate spiritual realization is there's no such separation. It's one thing to understand it intellectually, but it's a whole other kettle of fish to actually get there. So, but maybe better to go to a nice yoga studio with nice ladies in yoga pants doing like that. Maybe that will foster union, a different type of union. God only knows.
Definitely a different type of
Different type
union.
of union.
Yeah.
Yeah. And nidra is the word for the word nidra is fantastic. It's a super interesting word, and it just goes in many different directions. But to cut a long story short, it means sleep. So yoga nidra sometimes is called a yogic sleep, and is one discipline that uses the sleeping state as the main tool to achieve that union and to grow and develop spiritually, which is great because I'm Spaniard and we like siestas, so it's
Yeah,
like
that's right.
you're telling me you're telling me that I can grow spiritually by taking siestas. Where do I sign? And I became an instructor.
Gives the ability to nap on the job officially on that. That's right.
Officially, man, it's like isn't that brilliant?
Yeah. Just like the brewmaster getting to taste the beer all the time. Yeah, no, I have to taste it. Right.
Yeah.
So part of the yoga nidra practice is to go into salvation, dead body pose.
Dead body pose, corpse
that?
pose,
Corpse pose. But what's there's another
Shavasana.
Yeah. And I say that I'm thinking I'm going to say beer, but
Why?
Salvatia.
Cerveza, ¿no?
Por favor.
Cerveza, por favor. Shavasana.
Wow, I don't
This
even
is what
master.
happens. This is what happens. A bunch of dudes get together on a Zoom call to discuss yoga nidra. First thing that happens, they discuss beer and ladies. So it's like it's just so classic.
It's almost root.
Let's bring some depth to this discussion, gentlemen.
That's right. We're on women. We're beer on women on beer, right?
But we have Mary Santiago there. If you're listening, Mary, please just humor us. We're just a bunch of lads.
So the point is to get into corpse pose, which is where you don't move.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And part of the thing is that I remember, because I've been doing your yoga practices since you brought it up, like we're talking back a couple months now, when you sent me some recordings and whatnot. And, it was this whole thing of, well, I keep, I'm having a hard time not falling asleep. And I remember you saying, well, clearly your body needed the rest. So that's not necessarily a bad thing on top of that.
Yeah. No, it's not bad.
But what is the process of yoga nidra that actually is that facilitates connection or union or communion?
I will try and do my best effort to describe it in detail on Friday.
Okay.
But because once you get into it, you realize that the yogis knew what they were talking about, and that it's a super sophisticated methodology. There's nothing random about it, and that's why I say that I'm not an instructor, I'm just a student. But the gist of it is that you allow your consciousness, and by your consciousness I mean the part of us that is a witness to it all. Like right now I'm a witness not only to my laptop and to my microphone and to Luke, but I'm also witness to my bodily processes, and I'm witness to the words that come out, and even to the thoughts that are forming before. So there's a part of me that is not my body, is not my thoughts, is not my emotions, and in a way puts my body and this laptop and this camera, this microphone in the same category of things that I perceive. Is known to me, therefore is not me. So yoga nidra follows a very strict method of progressively making you aware of that separation by disengaging its grip on things that normally has a grip on. So the first thing that your mind has a grip on is your body. You know, you need to be connected to your body just to move around. The only time when you are not connected to your body is when you're sleeping. Just park it. It's like,
Right.
where's your body when you're sleeping? Well, physically it's in bed, but you know, when you are dreaming that you're flying over Toronto, your physical body is not flying over Toronto. You have a subtle body, it's called in yogic terms, that is the one flying over Toronto. But the witness is there. But 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 what is really the body to you? That witness is like that. It's somewhere else. So the first thing that yoga nidra does is create that, but instead of going to sleep, create that feeling or that disconnection while you are aware, while you're awake. And once you do that, then consciousness has to focus somewhere else, because now it's not focusing on the body, so it goes inside. I think it's important to say as well that yoga nidras perform with the eyes closed. So the idea is to close as many sensory inputs, as much sensation as you can, so consciousness has no other option but to keep going more and more and more inside. So another place where your consciousness is very much gripped is your breathing patterns. You normally breathe, you interact with your breath, but when you're sleeping, it's automatic. You don't think it just goes. So progressively, what you're trying to do is to consciously get your body in the same gear that it gets to when it's sleeping. So at one point you disconnect, you're kind of disengaged from your body, you disengage from your breathing that is now in automatic pilot, and then you get to observe your mind, which is there, but there's ways to calm your mind, also disengage from the mind. And what happens when you allow your consciousness to do that is that it relaxes because it's always so busy with so many things that when you train it, because I mean, this took me weeks and months, but even as Luke pointed out, if all you get out of nidra is a good nap, you needed it. It's good. It benefited you. It's a good step. We are way too tense. We have so much going on. We look at too many screens and have too many notifications, and so we haven't learned to consciously relax. We go to bed or we switch on Netflix, but we rarely are aware of what true relaxation feels like. And it's like a true massage for the mind, or a bath for the soul, call it whatever. So slowly you develop that ability of true and complete relaxation, a quiet mind, a quiet body, a peaceful breath, peaceful breathing. And once you start practicing that, what happens is that tension sees an open door and leaves. And Luke has had this experience of I don't know what's going on, but sometimes I jolt or things come to my mind, and what the fuck, it's like there were lots of monsters in a corner down in the depths of your psyche, and you were like, it's okay, now you can get out. It's now coast is clear, and then lots of things start leaving the system. And for a guy like me that is pretty intense in his mind, and that was a discovery. And that was
Right.
a super practice to engage with. Yeah,
I'm as I I'm at a point in my meditations now where I can't listen to anything. I'm not yoga nidra meditating. I'm just talking about I need to get still and just stop, and just like, even for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, I've just so much going on. I don't even know what to do next. It's like I get off a trampoline, when you're on a trampoline and you feel like you want to keep bouncing because or on a treadmill, you feel like you want to keep walking, right? So and I don't even know what the next steps are. So I will stop and I'll get still, where I can just let the thoughts come up and surface as to what I should be paying to next. And that took a while to keep my expectations in check, because there's that whole thing of I'm not finding peace, shit, I'm not finding, and then I'm fixating on not finding peace, and those
Yeah.
type of things, right?
Yeah.
And so when I do go to that place where I close my eyes and I get still, and there's a minimum amount of stimulus coming in from noise specifically, and I'm just kind of left alone with my own thoughts, I I I I do find that people have explained this phenomena of, well, where do you start and where do you stop and everything else stop? Because when you're disconnected, there's no real sense of my limitations are right here by seeing my body, right? But when I close my eyes and I get still, there's this kind of like, it's just like, where do I go to? Where's that expanse and whatnot? Do you have any thoughts on that, or is that?
Um, it's a super sophisticated thought, and I have my thoughts on it, but I think I should refer to scripture and to traditions. Like we have been told that God lives within, and I don't think God is small. So that was one of my first surprises when I started going deep into Yoga Nidra. I realized that I had an entire universe inside of me that came as part of the package, and I had never explored it. I thought that having an inner life was about me popping out philosophical thoughts. I didn't I didn't know that there was an entire inner world, and that people like Carl Gustav Jung did his best to map it and to describe the mechanics of that inner world. And the people in the Vedanta tradition and the Hindi tradition have detailed descriptions of what's going on inside. Um, so to me, it was very humbling to realize that I had spent 40 years of my life looking outward and calling all of this reality, even though it was always changing.
Yep.
But I had this thing inside that was constant, reliable, mine, and it lived outside of time and outside of space. And I think that's as close as we can get to the definition of something divine. So I was like completely, and I'm still completely like in awe. It's like, wow. So this is what the yogis talk about when they say you have to turn the senses inward. It's like all of that perception that we put out there is like, if you learn to turn that perception inward and put as much attention to that inner world as we put to whatever we're doing on the outside. I mean, what we start discovering is nothing short of divine. um, that may sound corny, but I mean it in the deepest way possible.
Well, it's interesting because I heard of a study, and I don't think it's urban myth. This is 4 or 5 years ago, where, of course, they happen at university where all studies go, and so people were given the choice to um, be still and do nothing, or accept a low-grade electrical shock, and a disproportionate amount of the people took the shock over being
Really?
still with it. Yeah, yeah.
Wow.
It was actually it was significant, and the suggestion was that we're so not used to being alone with our thoughts, being okay with our thoughts, being okay with who we are, that we constantly are looking for that external stimulus, that came to came to a choice between, and people took the shock. Now,
Yeah.
I don't know enough about the study to know the age, if they just did university students or if this is across the board, but I thought it was kind of interesting, and I really wasn't surprised that there would be that kind
Yeah.
of difference.
Yeah. Well, it is. I mean, I think really, I don't know about how many real life situations one needs to make that type of choice. So I don't know about the validity of the premise, but solitary confinement is one of the worst punishments in jail.
Right,
Nobody goes, oh, solitary confinement, I get to talk to God for the next month.
right.
It's like solitary confinement, get me out of here. Somebody beat me to a pulp in the toilet, please. I just don't want to be alone with myself.
Yeah.
All of my guilt, all of my shame, all of the things I've done, all of the lost opportunities, all of my weaknesses. So like, is all of that gonna come to surface? Yes, it is. Okay, let's watch another Netflix show.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
Absolutely.
yeah.
So what do people report about yoga nidra as the benefits for it?
Okay, I think it's only fair that I start reporting for myself, and then we'll talk about people.
Okay.
I don't know. Maybe it's relevant to say that I discovered Nidra a few years ago, but I got deep into the practice thanks to COVID and lockdown specifically. So I think one of the things that Nidra gave me was a buffer of calmness between me and life, and that allowed me to deal with things that I needed to deal with in a peaceful way. Because I was so tense, having lost my main income and being in lockdown and in small flat. Everything was so on the surface that I wasn't sure if I had the necessary um, inner fuel, or let's say wiggle room to make any decisions. I was like too much on edge, and I think that the first thing that Nidra gave me was a buffer of calmness. That was one, and also a methodology to do inner housekeeping, like vent. Because one of the things that we couldn't do during lockdown is go out and run, for example, or go out and go for a walk. So Nidra gave me a safe way to let all of that inner pressure release, be out of the system, without the need of having to, have a fight with my partner, or, like smash something against the wall or shout. It's like, no. I'm learning how to
Right.
vent it out naturally. It's brilliant.
And in Spain, there was it was pretty locked down. Like there was, what was it? You're at the height of it. It was like martial law. Like the police could come in and, and you weren't allowed to leave in couples. You could only leave by yourself. And there's been different
It was,
layers to it, right?
yeah. I mean, any way you look at it is mental. It was a very unnatural way to live. And I think the problem was not so much the regulations. I think it was more like being in Paris, France, and seeing the Nazis coming to your city. It's like, the world is changing, but you don't know what it means, and you don't know what you can do, and you don't know for how long it's gonna last, and you don't know what's gonna happen to your life. And all of the rules that applied 10 minutes ago don't apply anymore. And I think all of that affected me way deeper than a particular regulation, because regulations, you deal with them. It's like, okay, they changed the speed limit. Well, the bugger. Oh, you cannot go out after 10. It's like, I don't like it, but it's not gonna kill me. It was more the underpinning of it all. It's like, what is really happening? The world is really changing at a fundamental level, and that created a spiritual unsettlement, that 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 was kind of on top of me losing my main source of income and being on lockdown. It was just too much, and I had to deal with it, and I had to make decisions, and I had to deal with it as peacefully as I could. And I was very lucky to find something that I could do once or twice a day that would not only provide a layer of relaxation, but also separation from all of that train of thought. Because I could really see that I have thoughts, but I'm not the thoughts. And I knew it intellectually. I've done meditation and whatever, but it was being so clear, and there's so much was being revealed, and my practice was going deeper and deeper, that I thought I'm onto something here. So I went to study. Yeah.
So you got relief. You were feeling like it gave you that the old mechanisms for coping you couldn't do anymore. because you weren't allowed to go and burn off the energy or run and that kind of stuff. So it really
Yeah.
forced you to find another. And what's been the biggest surprise of yoga nidra for you?
I think, well, I think I was possibly very dismissive of yoga in general, even though I had worked in a yoga retreat center for more than 3 years, because I had seen that layer of, the yoga pants and the postures,
Yeah.
but I had never been introduced to the rigor and the seriousness of these people that spent thousands of years trying things out and having this conversation about what works, what doesn't, what is real, what is not real. If you do this and you do that, this happens. And look, there's an entire science. I know it's not science by our Western definition of science, but it is science in the sense that it's an evolving body of knowledge that has been tested and tried for hundreds of years. So in that sense, observation, experimentation, result. So that was one of the first things that for me was like, wow, I didn't even know this existed. How did I miss it?
Right.
And
Especially
then
since you had been around so many people teaching
and
yoga.
also I consider myself somebody who's very curious about spiritual things. It's like I've studied with James Schwartz, Vedanta, and I've done my fair share of reading, and one of my best friends is a priest. It's not like and another one of my best friends is an ordained interfaith minister. So it's not like I'm completely new to the spiritual world, but I think, I don't know, maybe it just came in the right time, but it made click as well with the world of Carl Gustav Jung, the way he describes the unconscious and the collective unconscious, and the way that some of the modern day internet gurus talk about the nature of the subconscious mind and the relationship with everything else. This put it all together beautifully and provided a technique to work on it by taking a nap. And that also was something very important for me because, I don't know about you, Luke, but for me, sitting down to meditate is a pain. I have back pain. I need to adjust constantly. It's tricky, it's difficult. And here's a technique that tells me, do the least amount of effort possible. We're gonna allow you to actually release the effort thing. We're gonna go the other way. We're gonna relax you like you've never relaxed, and you'll be amazed what happens to your psyche once you actually learn to ungrip.
Yeah.
You'll be free. Your mind will just, everything that has been there suppressed for ages will have a chance to just go. It's like, really, really, I don't have to go drink whiskey. like, can I just close my eyes, listen to nice music, and can I do this shit? And then I started getting guidance. Like I realized that once I learned to get to certain layers of the psyche, I could actually start a conversation. And then I realized that a lot of the descriptions of talking with God that we have in Scripture, they happen at night or they happen in dreams. Like Joseph, Mary's husband, is woken up in the middle of the night. It's like they take the baby to Egypt. Most of the prophets, they're woken in the middle of the night or through dreams. So I started seeing the parallels. Like there's something about the world of dreams that is close to divine, where guidance could be received, where healing can happen, when things can click, where psychic energy can be released. And I realized, wow, there's an entire inner world that is trying to talk to me, knows more about me than I do,
Right.
and I really mean it. I think there's a part, and we all know that we have, 5-10% of the conscious mind, and the rest of it is subconscious power. And it's like, oh, there's a part of me that knows me better than me, and maybe it's a good idea, and actually a smart one, if I start befriending that part of me. Maybe it has something to teach me because I'm a twat and I know it. But maybe that part is not.
Right.
It's the word of the gods in a way,
Right.
So
Absolutely.
yeah.
Cool. Well, we're about 1:45. What I want to do is I want to actually announce what my webinars that are coming up, and then we're going to come back and answer any questions that might be out there first. So I'm just going to share my screen and just talk about what I have coming up this week. So because we are looking at December being the month that it is and whatnot, there's a later schedule towards the end of the month. But tomorrow, oops, stop that. I don't know what just happened there. No. Very finicky mouse. Ta-da! Okay, love it when it works. So tomorrow at 1 o'clock Mountain Standard Time, I have part one of how to develop your compelling elevator pitch. It's the value proposition, and we really look at how you determine a value proposition and why it's so important and why it's so why you need to have that for your elevator pitch. And then on Wednesday, we have the Connect and Learn networking event with Colin Christopher and myself. And this is at 5 o'clock Mountain Standard Time. It's unusual the times I usually hold my webinars, but this is a networking event, and it was really well received last week. I thought it was good. I really enjoyed the engagement and whatnot. And this week is going to be our second one. We're doing 3 in December just to see how it goes and then determine from there. Then we move on to part 2 of how to develop a compelling elevator pitch, creating meaningful connections. And we take what we learned in the first part, which is your value proposition, and then see where it fits within the rest of your structure of an elevator pitch. So please check that out if you're looking at wanting to develop your elevator pitch and better engagement. Then on Fridays, of course, I have my Widen Your Gaze segment. And here we have less hairy John, basically speaking, and he's going to be presenting on this. So if you're curious about Yoga Nidra and the benefits of it, please come check it out. John's an absolutely excellent teacher. And like I said, that's going to be on December 11th at 1 o'clock Mountain Standard Time. And then the next week I have my Here to There show, and I'm still getting the, my guest speaker is going to be Shomo, and he's going to be speaking, but I haven't quite got that together, like regarding the copy and the demo for it. So we then look at my next one on December 15th, which is Ageism, Navigating the Potential Minefield. And really what's the main thrust behind this webinar is you have to give them a reason to see past your age. If all people can see is for your age, then basically you haven't demonstrated what you bring to the table. And also this called Navigating the Potential Minefield is because there are ways to tell if you're putting yourself potentially in an ageism situation where you're going to be judged on your age. And we look at some strategies on how to make sure that you don't do there, or if you're going to do that, walking into it with your eyes wide open. Then of course the Connect and Learn show. And then on Thursday, the 17th, we have Becoming a Subject Matter Expert. And in it, I offer 19-20 different strategies on how to position yourself as an expert in the market. And then on December 22nd, I'm going to have video interviews, Getting Out of Your Own Way. And this is the do's and don'ts of not being on camera, but getting ready, because you only have that small opportunity to make that lasting impression. So you don't want to basically shoot yourself in the foot by, not having your equipment set up or people can't hear you on that. And then on the last one I'm doing of the year is Communication Fundamentals. And in this process, in this webinar, not a process, but a webinar, I talk about how communication goes off the rails, why it goes off the rails. I offer a very simple but elegant model on how to look at communication conflict. And I've been teaching this particular content since the 80s, quite frankly. That's where I first got my initial training on it and whatnot. So I've taught this to a lot of people. And if you're looking to have better communication and understand how you can spot when communication is going off the rails, please come check this out. Okay, so that's what I have coming down the pipeline, and I'm going to stop sharing. And we have about 11 minutes left, and what questions might people have? And that's going to be really John and Chris, because we started with, I think we had 9 people show up, and we're down to the rest of us on that. So Chris, did you have another question? I'm not sure if I saw you raise your hand earlier. Or...
So would you say that I'm embarrassed. I don't even know if I can say it right. Yoga Nitra.
Yep.
Wow. And that's. Would you say that like like if you're starting to semi fall asleep, would you call that an out of body experience? Starting to fall asleep.
Okay,
For example.
I haven't had a full on out of body experience yet, but I know that other people have had those with yoga nidra. It's very uncommon to just go fully into it because I've felt at some point, like I'm scratching my eye or something, and I realize that I'm not, that actually my arm is down there. It's like I'm dreaming that I'm scratching. So that's kind of the beginning of the out of body experience, I am told. And that has happened a few times. Like I feel that there's a part of me that is moving or touching something, and then I realize that I'm dreaming it, but I feel that I'm scratching. So there's one virtual arm that is scratching a virtual eye or something, and it feels like it. So it's very real. Um, Maybe it's more akin to lucid dreaming, but again, I'm not an expert on this, but I know that people that are deep nidra meditators report such experiences. Now, I don't know if there's a part of your body that kind of physically or geographically moves away, or if it's all a projection of the mind. I don't know, but I know that people have these sort of experiences regularly with me. But yeah, I haven't yet. But yeah.
That's really that. Actually, this is really interesting because, and coming from like Orthodox and Hasidic Judaism, they say that sleep is like a 1/60th of death if you fall asleep. And I've seen, I think there have been a number of reports of people just, people who literally, it's possible for people to, as you know, they can lose their heartbeat, which means flatlining, which means clinically dead. But then they come back to life and report having, just seeing everything that's going on, which is really out of, the same thing, out of body experience.
Yeah, yeah. I think that what we don't know about the experience of being alive is more than what we know. And I think mystery is super. But yeah, there's too many anecdotal accounts to dismiss them. And what is the nature of it? Is just the brain doing something woo-woo, or there's something to what the yogis say that actually our being is not just physical, but is subtle and has many different layers. I think it is a phenomenal rabbit hole to get into. Um, but yeah,
And
I mean,
yeah, and that is part of the mystery, isn't it?
well, we for the last 500 years, 400 years, we've lived with the premise, uh, now unquestioned by the Western zeitgeist, that the physical world is the most real of of all of the experiences. Like science studies knowledge taking matter as a starting point. Matter, the physical matter, the atoms and the molecules. And most of the religions of the world and the mystics and the contemplatives, they tell us that it's actually the other way around. Consciousness precedes matter. Matter exists because we're conscious. And if that's true, then the world of possibilities that opens is too big to contemplate by the rational mind. Obviously, we have art, we have mythology, we have other types of ways to perceive reality, like altered state of consciousness and all of that type of thing. So I used to be very rationalist. I was actually a staunch atheist for 10 years, and I'm very skeptic. But I've seen enough and felt enough to not think that little me 40 years in the planet has answers for everything. And there's plenty of people that have been writing for like 5,000 years and telling stories. And if those stories are still there in the corpus of stories, is because there must be something to it. We cannot understand it. Fine, it doesn't mean that there's not something there. And but for me at the moment, if I find a way to relax and to be more at peace and to grow, it's super enough. I have, it's not in my list of goals to be able to leave my body and go to New Zealand. But if they keep doing lockdown, man, it may be. I'm half serious about it. If I realize that I can visit with Luke, at some point in Canada, yeah, and I don't need to catch a plane. Like maybe I'll open the Zoom here, get into bed, fly to Edmonton, stir your
Knock.
tea,
Yeah, that's
no,
right. And knock before you come into my bedroom. So
yeah,
you don't-
I have no intention to go into your bedroom, Luke.
Okay.
Don't you worry. We'll just go to
Yeah.
the kitchen and have coffee.
All right.
Yeah,
Well, I'm just if you come visit, hey, Luke, get up, come on.
yeah.
John did have a question, and he said that he has a lot of background noise, so that's why he's not unmuting. And thank you very much for John that consideration. John did want to know how long you meditate per day, John, or how often?
How often? If I manage to get into a routine, at least I try to meditate twice a day, if I can. You know, life. I would love to tell I'm a fantastic yogi and I do like 3 hours a day or something regularly. But to be honest with you, the last month has been a bit of a convoluted one, and I haven't
Well,
practiced
there
much.
was that trip to Ireland that you did with your dog,
That was a trip
and
to Ireland, and
228-hour ferry rides.
but I kid you not, on the way back on the ferry,
Yeah.
it was so stormy
Yeah.
that I actually managed to nidra my way through it because I could disconnect from my body and let my body just go through the ups and downs and maybe and I fell asleep for 12 hours in the middle of a storm. True story. But if I'm doing good, I'll try and do 2 hours.
2 hours a
One
day.
in, yeah, yeah. Or at least two practices, maybe yoga in the morning and maybe nidra in the afternoon or evening or something like that. But I'll try to have two blocks to keep my practice going, and then I'm trying to make my work my meditation, like the monks and like the yogis doing karma yoga. I have to edit a podcast, it's a meditation. I have to wash the dishes, it's a meditation. I'm trying, man, but it's tough because I want to go to the next thing, and it's like, no, you're editing a podcast, you're writing a script, you're washing the dishes. It's
Being present.
well, that's the goal of a spiritual life. At the end of the day, is to realize that union. There's no difference. The Bhagavad Gita says that for the wise man, there's no difference between a lump of gold and a piece of excrement. Like, and maybe it's a bit exaggerated. I'd rather take the gold, but what a beautiful goal that we are not
Right.
evaluating. I'd rather not be doing this. You can find God in anything you do, and easier said than done. So. That's an aim, but it's a tough one.
It is.
Sorry, John, I'm not that good.
So I think we're going to bring this to an end, but I just want to make sure we don't need to see this. So this is there we go. Info
At I the sound.
the sound. Okay, yeah, I hadn't read it before. Is a way of getting in touch with John, and he would be happy to. What's your offer, John? Just that if people are looking for some support, they can just ask question.
Yeah,
Or
if you have any questions with anything sound related, if you want to record or set up a podcast, or if you want to do some online training, and if you want to create your online training, or just need some advice on how to get your sound going, or if you are gonna direct a documentary or you need a soundtrack, that will get me very happy. If I could get some music gigs, I'm a starving artist. Please just give me a call. I'm actually not a bad composer. I'm not Hans Zimmer, but I can make something sound decent.
well, and you have composed music for documentaries.
I've done music for documentaries, for short films, and for TV ads. My favorite so far, documentaries.
Right.
Documentaries with heart. If the documentary has a story to tell and the director allows for the musician to do something, so far my best. And I hope that this project, I the Sound, will move from podcast into other avenues, and I take it as a very fluid project because I'll go where the muse takes me. So
Chris says, congrats to John for the nice domain on that. So excellent. Well, I think that is pretty much a wrap. And I want to thank all those who tuned in today. John, I'm really excited and looking forward to hearing you speak on Friday. Well, I've heard you speak lots, but offer your webinar on Friday. And that's a wrap for today on the Here to There show. Thank you very much for Chris and John for hanging out and being with us here today. And I'm going to get you guys to sign off so John and I can wrap up. And so